Now it's almost time for the 2022 Money in the Bank premium event, but there's a serious problem with the show, the Money in the Bank ladder match itself. Join us now as we look at WWE's biggest problem with Money in the Bank. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out Wrestlelamia.co.uk and our non-wrestling channel, Incredible. Should WWE scrap Money in the Bank altogether? Fans have already seen the WWE drop or diminish many of its stipulation-heavy pay-per-views, but should Money in the Bank, which has been a pay-per-view since 2010 and a match since 2005's WrestleMania 21, join the pay-per-view trash heap of history? Money in the Bank wouldn't be the first themed event to see its star fall or disappear. For example, the WWE dropped TLC in 2021, and the show is currently not on the WWE's 2022 schedule. Then there are stipulation-heavy shows like Extreme Rules and Hell in a Cell, which have seen a decrease in number of stipulation matches on the shows. 2021's Extreme Rules show featured just one stipulation match, while this year's Hell in a Cell featured only one Hell in a Cell. While the WWE seems to be moving away from stipulation-heavy events, Money in the Bank has been seen as one of the WWE's special events besides its big four, that being WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble, so much that Nick Khan hopes to capitalize on its seeming popularity by holding this year's event at the Allegiant Stadium and transforming the WWE's Big Four into a Big Five. But this turned into a big flop, as there weren't enough tickets sold, which, as you've no doubt heard, led to the WWE switching venues to a small arena. There are a number of reasons that could explain Money in the Bank's poor ticket sales, but arguably the core problem is the WWE's handling of the match's winners and cash-ins. Let's look at these problems and see if the event should be scrapped altogether. Rocket to the top. Now, once upon a time, the Money in the Bank contract was a useful tool for strapping a rocket to a wrestler's back. The concept of a match where the winner could earn a World Championship contract they could cash in at any time quickly proved popular. Even better, it proved to be a great way of elevating wrestlers to the next level. This was seen when Edge used his cash-in to take out John Cena after the Chain Gang Soldier had wrestled a hellacious match. Edge went from a perennial title aspirant to a legitimate champion. The WWE used CM Punk's briefcase wins even better. Punk won the event 2 years in a row, successfully cashing them in both times and adding a twist to his second win by turning heel after he cashed it in on Jeff Hardy after Hardy had finished wrestling. These cash-ins elevated Punk into the main event, and while Punk was not entirely happy with his WWE push, it's hard to argue that he did not enjoy a lengthy run in the main event. Likewise, Rob Van Dam did well when he won the briefcase, cashing it in successfully against John Cena at 2006's ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view. There's been some crappy cash-ins. Not every cash-in has been a success, and the WWE deserves credit for maintaining a certain number of unsuccessful cash-ins to maintain suspense whenever someone captures the briefcase. The idea should be to maintain suspense without diminishing the wrestler's value when he's unsuccessfully cashing in his briefcase. The WWE protected John Cena when he unsuccessfully cashed in his briefcase, but it didn't do this with the unsuccessful cash-ins involving Damien Sandow or Baron Corbin. As in Corbin's case, his unsuccessful cash-in was seen as a punishment for heat he'd allegedly incurred with WWE management. As bad as Braun Strowman's unsuccessful cash-in was, it had less to do with the bad booking of the briefcase than it did with the bad booking of Braun. So is it down to poor planning? As fans have seen with AEW and WWE getting socked with injuries, long-term planning can prove problematic. However, there are differences between plans going awry, such as when Mr. Kennedy won the Money in the Bank briefcase in 2007 but had to drop it after an injury, and the WWE's booking on the fly as 2020's decision to give Otis the briefcase. Otis seemed like a clever choice at the time as he was right in the midst of a red-hot angle with Mandy Rose. Regrettably, the WWE had no idea what to do once Otis won the briefcase, and it had The Miz beat him in for a poorly booked match. In other cases, the WWE has had some questionable situations involving mid-card stars winning the briefcase and making successful cash-ins. The trouble here is that this can seem like a fluke, devaluing the winner rather than taking them to the next level. The idea behind this seems to be Vince McMahon's belief that having former world champion before your name gives you instant credibility, even if you don't compete in the main event. In some cases, this has worked out well, with The Miz collecting both his world championships through successful cash-ins and enjoying a solid career in the WWE as someone who can gravitate from main event down to mid-card as needed. Unfortunately, The Miz has been the exception, as other winners like Dolph Ziggler and Jack Swagger saw their world title reigns do diddly squat for their careers. There have been some crappy championship reigns. Even when the briefcase cash-ins are successful, the WWE has often booked the champions poorly. Nikki Ash's 2021 cash-in against Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship seemed like the perfect step in Nikki's comeback story. The reign turned into a disaster after she lost her title just 2 months later to Charlotte at SummerSlam, with the push evaporating even as she held the women's title. Another questionable reign occurred that same year when the 2021 Men's Money in the Bank winner Big E successfully cashed in his briefcase to defeat Bobby Lashley for the championship. Big E's championship reign lasted 110 days, with the champion often seeming to take a back seat to the drama going on between his challengers. As bad as that was, the WWE had Big E drop the title clean to Brock Lesnar at day 1 in a fatal 5-way match, but Big E didn't have to take the pin, but he did, making his reign appear weak in the eyes of many of his fans. But maybe the problem seems the Roman Reigns factor. Now, the biggest problem plaguing the men's Money in the Bank match is Roman Reigns holding the Undisputed Championship. Short of a dramatic change in WWE's booking, there's no end in sight for Reigns' vice-like grip on the Undisputed title. Further complicating matters is the WWE's decision to unify both belts. It doesn't matter who wins the briefcase, because there's no way someone is going to successfully cash in their briefcase against Reigns. While there has been talk of Reigns somehow dropping the championship in order to free up a belt for the mere mortals on Raw, that seems unlikely to us, as the only way that would happen would be for the WWE to strip Reigns of the belt over a storyline infraction. Money in the Bank has lost some of its luster over the years, but there's no reason it can't be fixed. The women's Money in the Bank is relatively new compared to the men's match, but other than the questionable reigns like Nikki Ash, the WWE has a good track record with the women's briefcase. There's no reason to scrap the women's ladder match, but what about the men's match? The men's briefcase bout has a number of flaws we've already mentioned, and as long as Roman Reigns holds the Undisputed Championship, the suspense of the title being cashed in at any time is non-existent, as long as fans think Reigns is going to remain champion. Plus, he won't even be around for the summer. Things won't be any better if a babyface wins either, as it's likely they'll announce their championship challenge ahead of time. How can we fix it? The good news is that it shouldn't take much to fix the Money in the Bank stipulation, as number 1, timing the cash-in right. For now, the WWE should consider holding off on having this year's briefcase winner cash in their contract. The ideal situation would be to tease having someone cash in their briefcase when Reigns appears vulnerable, only for something to thwart their cash-in. This scenario has played out successfully before and could stretch out a cash-in until WrestleMania 39 or after, when there's more chance of Reigns counting the lights. Number 2, switching things up. One way the WWE could improve the Money in the Bank's appeal would be to consider changing things up, much as it did at the 2020 when the pandemic forced them to hold the event at WWE's headquarters. This unforgettable night saw the competitors from both men's and women's events making their way from the bottom to the top of WWE's headquarters, with plenty of shenanigans ensuing along the way. Although this isn't something that they should be doing every year, it shows that there are ways to change things up. This includes the WWE thinking quick when the company learned that the then Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch was pregnant. They had Asuka win the briefcase and the next night reveal Becky's pregnancy, and that Asuka's briefcase win had made her the Red Brand's champion. Although Money in the Bank has its problems, its overall history suggests there's no need to scrap it. If the WWE makes some minor modifications, it could turn into one of its most popular shows again. What do you guys think of the problem? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.